Hello and welcome to episode 1127 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, January 16th, MLK Day. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good day, sir.
Good afternoon for both of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
You just turned over.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
About 12:30 there. On this holiday, the site's dark, but we figure we'll do a pod at least while people are hanging out, maybe watching basketball if they enjoy other sports other than baseball, or if they're just sitting there jonesing for baseball and they're like, I'll watch some basketball. I don't care, but I want baseball back. It's getting to be that time. Like the itch, obviously it never goes away for us. We talk about how crazy we are. We're doing drafts. We're in a draft champions together right now. But even with that, even though we don't turn it off, I definitely still feel like the uptick in excitement with other people. And once you're in playoff football, I really think we start to get a bunch of our football people back. Projections are coming out. The BAT and the BAT X came out. ATC's right around the corner. It's about that time, Justin. I mean, baseball is damn near back.
I feel like since we're doing projections this year, we need to come up with a cool name.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like, I don't... The Mace?
I got make it an acronym somehow. Come up with something that's an acronym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to come up with something. Maybe the RotoWare guys can do something. They're smart. Like
speaking of,
yeah, I'm
always repping.
I'm wearing
you're wearing a wonderful shirt.
The murdering me shirt for those of you who don't like me, but man, Miss you can go and get that one.
That one, yeah, that would be a favorite for them. Mm-hmm. Well, we're continuing our position previews. Our first run of them. We will do another run. So if we don't talk about somebody on this one, good chance we'll talk about them on the second one when we really dive in and things get more settled in the last few bits of free agency finish up and probably even a couple trades. Hopefully, maybe I'm wish casting there a little bit. I'd like to see a few trades. But we're going to take our first tour of the hot corner. But I affectionately called it the hot trash corner because, Justin, it's tough.
It's trash. Yeah,
it's tough.
It's bad.
It's got that star power at the top. We're not saying those guys are trash, but once you get past them, good freaking luck.
It's very similar to second base, but kind of backwards, where second base doesn't have the guys at the top that third base does. But that means that the huge drop off happens really, really fast at third, as opposed to second, where there's some sprinkled values in places.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it opens wide. It gets wide open after Nolan Arenado. You can go a billion different ways. There's a couple guys we're going to talk about. There might be a Vaughn Grissom at this position too. And if you listen to the second base podcast, that's not a positive thing. I'm sorry, Vaughn Grissom fans. We didn't have positive things to say just because we're worried about his immediate future. We actually like him long term if he didn't get to catch that second base pod. But let's get into it. Let's start talking about it. And because of this concern, because of this worry about the position, the thinness of the elite class, or actually the elite class isn't too bad, but the thinness of the secondary and the tertiary class, does that make José Ramírez your 1-1?
Yes. When I finished his projection, I think yesterday, one of the first thing I did after I finished the top 5 or 6 guys at third base, wherever that, or 6 or 7 where that drop off is, like Bregman, Arenado. I put him straight into my software, which I still cannot more highly recommend Tinkerbell's software for this stuff. Even if you don't want to do your own projections, you can just import whatever projections you want. You can aggregate them.
You don't have to do it like we're doing it.
And it's $17. It's so worth it. So after I did that, José Ramírez, who was probably 4 or 5, using kind of just Steamer as just the placeholder until I had mine done, he jumped up to 1. And that is kind of in line with what I'd already been thinking about prior to the season, just because third base is so bad. And I think the other 2 guys in that discussion for 1-1 for me, I guess outfield isn't good either. So I guess you could really make the argument that maybe Acuna should be up there as well, or whatever other outfielder you really like. But José Ramírez, I think, is a pretty easy 1-1 for me, especially because by the time you pick in the second round, a lot of those other options that, you know, are in that elite tier are now gone.
Yep.
So
Only Arenado's likely to be there based on ADPs. You don't really see the next 4 drop that who we're going to talk about. So then you'd have to go with Arenado, or then you're waiting, because then there's almost a 50 pick drop from Arenado to Bregman. So yeah, I'm with you. Ramirez is my 1-1, and it's not that we're putting him up there because of third base. He's awesome, but then once you kind of have your 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, whatever you think the number 1 candidates are, you start to use tiebreakers, and I think positionality is definitely a worthy tiebreaker, and it does move J-Ram up to 1-1 for me. So
I think
is who I would take.
He was amazing last year, and he played hurt most of the year. Like, he's going to be healthy coming in. Like, I think he's just the epitome of a 5-category player at a position that is really, really light.
He's such a monster. I love Jose Ramirez. And so if you get him beyond 1, you should be feeling even better. Let's talk about another guy who goes in the first round pretty consistently. Does Bobby Witt Jr. improve in year 2, which I think folks would be hoping that he does based on where they're picking him? Or does he fall back a bit with the poor plate skills and sub 300 OBP?
I don't think he does either. I think what we saw is what he probably is in 2023. I think
is that worth that pick then? He's going about 6th overall consistently.
He's not worth 6. That to me is a no. And I actually had to like up my projection on him, because initially I did his projection and like he was a mid-second rounder. I was like, that doesn't feel right. And so I went and reworked it. And I got him up to about 11 or 12. And because when I first did it, he was like 4th, I want to say, in third base. I was like, no, I don't believe that. I'm not taking a guy like Devers over him. So
the 30 steals, you know, and if he adds any due to the new rules for Witt, now you're talking 35, perhaps even more. He's still going to only be 23, where you could still see like a crazy running season. He popped 20 homers. What if he does add there? And he was one of the few guys, when we talked about this with the Vinny Pasquantino thing, he's one of the few guys in the last several years for KC that's gone 80-80 on the runs ribbies. He had 82 runs and 80 ribbies, despite only a 294 OBP. You know, despite not really tearing the cover off the ball in his slash line, Bobby Witt Jr. was still so brilliant. But it has folks really excited, because he's 6'7" ADP right now overall. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, I think people are wish casting a little bit on him potentially taking another step forward. I think there is a lot of potential for him to take a step back, though. I mean, if the power isn't quite what we saw, if he doesn't run quite as much, the batting average, I think, has got some scary downside to it. So I've already gotten him in a league. That may end up being the last time I get him.
There's volatility there. I mean, his minor league stats were unbelievable for Witt. He really, really showed out, and then immediately hit the ground running in his first season. You know, despite a 99 WRC plus, he was that good in fantasy. He has that split of being better in fantasy than real life right now, but he could certainly eventually match those two. But prospect growth isn't linear. I could see a little bit of a dip this year and then a shoot back up at age 24 in 2024 for Bobby Witt Jr. So I've got him up there, by the way, too. I'm asking these questions just, out of the abundance of caution, but he's way up for me.
Yeah, he's 3rd for me right now. I think one of the other questions you have to ask yourself is, how good is Kansas City going to be offensively? And are they going to be better? I don't know that they're going to be. And now they're going to be going to a lot of other divisions with really good pitching as well, with a more balanced schedule. Like, I think there's a lot of questions on Bobby Witt Jr. I'm not saying I dislike him or I'm taking him off my board or anything, but I think he is probably being a little bit overdrafted right now.
Yeah, I think there maybe should be a little bit more caution with him. I was surprised that he was so firmly in the first half of the first round, but that's what speed is: power and speed at a premium position too. and he's dual eligible. So let's say you did still want to get a Devers coming back or a Riley, guys we're going to get into in a moment. You could, and then you could just put him you could put Witt at short. So, he does have the dual eligibility.
I think there's going to be leagues, especially like a 12-team league, where you have like the 12-13 wheel, and you could make a really good argument for being like, I'm going to take Machado and Witt and drown that pool
absolutely
a little bit. So, especially because we've talked about like, once you start getting past, certain guys, it becomes a lot scarier for position.
It runs 6 deep and then a near 50 pick drop. We'll get to that in a moment. Manny Machado is your number 2 guy, though, with a 281 projection, 281, 355, 509 with 32 homers, 94 runs, 101 ribbies, and 8 chipped in steals. Is he a mid-first rounder for you? Because that's pretty robust for Manny Machado.
Yeah, and I don't understand why other projections don't like him.
I asked because he's 14th ADP, which does still make him a first rounder in the 15-team leagues like the draft champions that we're doing. But obviously in a 12-teamer, that would not be. Meanwhile, maybe he's your 7, 8, 9 area guy with Manny Machado. I get it, right? Like he's so good. It's not even that I'm down on him. It's just that you were more up on him. And I was, I don't want to say taken aback, because again, I don't think you're off base there. I was just like, whoa. Justin really likes him. I thought I was pretty fine with Machado, but I've got 29 homers and a 268 average. Again, that's compared to your 32 and 281. The average is where we really split. But I could see it. I think I'm afraid of the park. The park scares me, even though he has defeated the park. Maybe I'm overrating that then.
And I think the average is the hardest thing to do for Manny Machado. So I used to, when I did the FWFB draft guide, which I'm not doing this year because I just didn't have time with doing the projections. Next year I'll be able to do start the projections earlier and hopefully still do the draft guide. But his last 4 batting averages, 298, 278, 304, 256. This is why I punt batting average in some leagues.
Yep.
Because good luck predicting it. Like
it's so hard. It really, really is with batting average.
There's some guys where like, I can write in 275 because he hits 275 or within 3 or 4 points of it every year. But there's a lot of guys like this. Mike Moustakas used to be my example for that article, but now Manny Machado, maybe I'll do a version of that article this year for the site. Manny Machado is my example. It's like, I don't know what he's going to do in terms of batting average.
I mentioned the park and why it scared me off a little bit with regards to Manny Machado's batting average, because Petco is not particularly friendly to hitters, especially righties. And that's why I have some concerns about Xander Bogaerts. I wonder if he learned something or if it was just stone cold bad luck, because his first year there, 2019, he hit 219 with a 230 BABIP at home. 230 BABIP says there was probably some bad luck, but I wonder if he just hit into some spots that, hey, that just doesn't work at this park. I need to adjust. The very next year, the BABIP goes up 100 points to 330, and he hits 353 at home. The last 2 years has kind of leveled out where he's hit 278 and 280 with a 282 and 311 BABIP respectively. That's more in the range of kind of standard outcomes there. So I wonder if it was just sheer luck on the negative end in 19, on the positive end in 20, and then he's been kind of living in the middle the last 2 years. But I do worry about that park some. So I toned him down a little bit at a 268 batting average, but I might take him back up to closer to 275. And that doesn't sound like much.
Are you talking about Machado? Because your numbers seem way off.
For Machado at home?
Oh, at home. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Specifically at Petco Park.
I mean, I just looked at his last 3 seasons, and obviously 2020 being, very useless for the most part. But,
sorry. Before you go, I cited that. And that was only 32 games. I wasn't even thinking about it because I was looking at splits. But that's part of it there.
Yeah.
Yes, he probably had good luck, but it was also the fact that it was the shortened season. Continue.
Season. But last 3 seasons, he's hit 298, 278, 304. I just have a really hard time projecting him to drop all the way down to 266, which is where the projection systems have him. And so I went on the lower end of what he's done the last few years. But 281, I feel like that's really fair considering he hit 298 last year, hit 278, in 2021. Maybe I'm a bit high, but this is also a really, really good lineup. He's going to get lots of pitches to hit, especially once Tatis is back. I wouldn't be surprised if he beat out the projections again and hit like 290.
Yeah, I sauced a couple extra hits his way. I got him now just on the doorstep of 280 with a 279 average for Machado.
And the other thing I don't get about, where the other projections have him is you look, they have him like 90 runs or 89 runs, 90, 97 RBS. Like, I feel like he's an easy 100 guy in that lineup. Like, the back half that lineup isn't great, but he's probably going to be hitting third in that lineup. Like, he's going to have two really good guys in front of him, two really good guys behind him. He's going 100. Like, the fact that the projection systems don't have him there, and I didn't even give him 100 runs. I probably should.
Well, especially they got Cruz. We have not talked about how they got Nelson Cruz. And look, I don't know if he's going to get back to being a stud. We don't know. He's getting old now. He's going to be age 43 season.
Well, if you listen to yesterday's podcast where we talked
I haven't
about
yet.
him,
I have not yet. So I will check in on that. You and Mike Curland talking over some things. That's such a deep lineup. It really looks quite nice. We've talked a bit about how LA's lineup is more mortal now. You look up and down, you go Kim, Soto, Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth, Cruz, Carpenter, Nola, Grissom.
That's without Tatis.
Exactly. That's before Tatis comes back. I'm still a sucker for Grissom. Sue me. But he's priced to buy. But that's nice. That's a nice lineup. Even before Tatis gets back, you throw him back in there. You take Carpenter and you make him more of a platoon guy. He and Cruz can just straight up platoon, basically. That is nice. I'm actually bumping his runs up too. You know what? You got me more sold here on Manny Machado with everything. And all of a sudden he's going to jump up and be a lot more snug with Bobby Witt in my projections. So Manny Machado,
for me, it's
first round.
Like, and it was surprising when I finished his projections, like, because I didn't anticipate him being my number 2 third baseman.
And that's why we do these, right? Because we eyeball things, we gut things, we say, oh, I have him here. And then you say, well, what do you think his numbers are? And then you say somebody's numbers and you're either way too high or way too low with where you said you thought he was. Oh, he's a top 10 guy. Okay, well, what are his numbers? Then you run him and it's like he's 18th. And you're like, he's not anywhere near a top 10 guy. And that's, I think I mentioned this on the second base. This is my favorite part of this whole process, though, is learning where I'm kind of full of crap when I say, oh, he's here. I actually put in the numbers I think he's going to be, and he's nowhere near where I thought that would land him.
Well, and just seeing how much, just a little bit of movement, like, we were talking about Thairo Estrada, and like I was like, oh, I updated my shortstop ranks, and I looked, and Thairo Estrada dropped all the way down to 18th after I kind of plummeted. And so, like, just realizing how little or how much movement can happen with just some little tweaks to a projection is really, really, now I've got to go back and fix that because he should not be 18th, but like, I think it's a really fun, interesting process. It's
been a blast. I've really enjoyed it. It's arduous. It's long, but it has been fun and
I mean, I've been up till 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning for the last few days, just trying. I'm done with first, second, third, and short.
We'll do short later this week, and then we'll get into the thick ones, the outfield. Yeah,
outfield starters. And catcher.
Oh, catcher too. Yeah. Also, I'm not putting this in the projection. We both have Manny Machado for 8 steals, but he has 12 and 9 the last 2 years. We just talked about how a little move can do big things. If you put like 3 extra steals with the rule changes on there, let's say he gets froggy again and goes for 12, that's even more potential value, so there's a lot to like there with Machado. I'm in on him. I agree with you as a first rounder. I had him a little bit lower than you, but he's in my first round. Curious if either of the other 2 big dogs here, this is finished off the elite class, Rafael Devers and Austin Riley. Are they 15-team first rounders for you, either of them?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, I'd have to go.
And they don't go that, just so people know that their ADPs are both 21, basically.
Riley's pretty close for me.
Okay. So you have Riley over Devers.
Yeah, Riley.
I mean, I know that. I'm letting you say that. I'm looking right at your projection.
And I guess Devers is in the conversation as well. I mean, I'm just looking at my sheet. Now, I think that will change once I finish my outfield projections. and maybe some outfielders to jump over them. But
that's true.
Right now, as things stand, I have Riley ranked 16th and Devers ranked 18th. And I think you also really have to start pushing pitchers up there too, because right now, starting pitching isn't going in the first round, or very much in the second round. So I think when you start pushing those starting pitchers up, as we will, once March comes around.
And that's NFBC specific. Let's point that out, because that won't happen as much in home leagues unless your home league does that. And you will know if your home league pushes pitchers up. But in the NFBC, which is what we focus on a lot, they will go up and they will push guys like Devers and Riley down a handful of spots. And Machado too, who, by the way, is not a guaranteed first rounder, going pick 14 on average. He could push down, and then all of a sudden we're getting him on the turn or early second, and that would be really nice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nolan Arenado, is he your life jacket before the cliff, or do you take on the fall and say, you know what, if I don't have a third baseman by then, I'm going to go for it? Because he's at pick 36. And then the next one is Alex Bregman at 82. What a split.
Yeah, I think he technically is, but
is he for you though? Do you, if you are in that spot, would you do it?
I think,
or do you just say, I'll ride the wave?
I think I'm going to ride the wave earlier than Arenado and Bregman. I think that if I don't get José Ramírez, Machado, or Bobby Witt Jr., then I'm probably not taking a third baseman for a while.
Okay.
Not that I dislike Riley or Arenado or Devers or Bregman, but they don't provide really any speed whatsoever. And typically in the first two rounds, I'm attacking guys who I think can be 5 category contributors. For instance, in our draft right now that we're doing, like I took Ohtani
and Realmuto.
I took Ohtani and Realmuto. And I would have.
So you didn't get like a ton of speed from Realmuto, but you got premium speed at a position that doesn't normally have any speed.
It's a 15-team 2-catcher league. Obviously, that plays into it. But I wanted guys that I know I'm getting 5 categories from. And Devers was still on the board. So like
Devers and Arenado were
Devers,
available. And Devers would have been the pick. Arenado goes a bit later there. So I like your start, really. You got Mullins in the 4th, so that you picked up your speed again. He doesn't give a ton, the guy I'm about to say, but Goldschmidt, you also get a little chip in there from a position that doesn't usually give it. So you've gotten some unique steals from first and catcher that people don't normally get with 8 to 10 chip in from Goldie and a solid number from Realmuto. By the way, we'll talk more about it there. Actually, no, I'm not even going to ask you, because we'll talk more about it at catcher. Let's continue then. We both love Ke'Bryan Hayes. We do have a little bit of split on his runs and ribbies. I couldn't really get there too much. I went 72 runs and 54 ribbies, but I did go 15 homers, which is a nice power boost for him, and 23 steals. You went 13, 21, but 72 and 68. So our big difference there is that RBI total. That is a 14 RBI total. Maybe I'm too nervous about Reynolds. Maybe I should just not do that until Reynolds leaves. But even though it's not crazy numbers, I think I want you to sell me a little bit on having those numbers up there for Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Pittsburgh's lineup is not as bad at the moment. Is not as bad as people make it out to be. Now, the bottom half of their lineup obviously isn't very good, and their pitching is atrocious with like Rich Hill and Vince Velasquez and JT Brubaker and Mitch Keller are like mainstays in your rotation for the season. You're in some trouble.
I'm hearing you're putting them in the playoffs.
I'm not.
I'm hearing you're saying they're division contenders with wild cards secured. That's what I'm hearing.
No, that would be wrong. However, I kind of like I definitely like their top 3. I like their top 3 a lot. And I don't mind G-Man Choi and McCutchen.
Kutch coming back too. Honestly, I had done this before McCutchen was back there. And I like it. By the way, I love that he's going back. It's just, that's so awesome, by the way, that he's going back to Pittsburgh and maybe playing one more year, maybe 2. Has he said if it's his final year?
I don't think he said it,
Okay,
but
I think it'll probably just depend how he feels at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But back where it all started, and that does deepen the lineup a bit. So you like the lineup a bit more. Obviously, you will adjust if Brian Reynolds leaves,
if Brian Reynolds leaves, that could cut 15, 20, RBIs off of Ke'Bryan Hayes's stat line. But as things stand at the moment, I really like Ke'Bryan Hayes. I mean, I don't think it's an overly aggressive,
I might be
RBI
under.
total.
I'm lower than any projection, the bat or steamer with my 54.
And I'm higher than the other projections. So
and we're both higher on the runs. And maybe I shouldn't trust the rest of the lineup to drive. Although those are some of the more professional, more veteran guys there.
Yeah.
With G-Man, Choi, McCutchen, and Santana, I do believe they will drive Ke'Bryan in. I think what we should really talk about, though, is that we like the power to grow, because he didn't really show it last year. And we had actually talked about that a lot on the pod. I remember highlighting, hey, I don't know if the power is there, but I do think he's a sneaky speed guy. He popped 20 steals. Only hit 244, though. I could have never guessed that. I would have said something like the 260s with the good steals and then mediocre power. He ends up going 7, 20, and 244 in 136 games. We both have him into the teens homers. It's not a huge jump, but you like him to develop into some more power. And then what do you like for his ceiling for Ke'Bryan Hayes? What kind of power ceiling does he have either this year or down the line?
I mean, it's not that I necessarily like him to grow into more power. I projected him for 600 plate appearances. So I think
that's still more, because he had 7 in 560. I guarantee you're not doubling your homer total with 40 more plate apperances. That's still a jump.
And it's also kind of giving him a normalized home run to fly ball rate, which was was 6% last year. It may be a little ambitious. I may actually need to dial it back a little bit, because we're talking about a guy who's never had a double-digit launch angle. The last 2 seasons has put up sub 30% fly ball rates. So I actually may need to dial it back.
See, I'm going the other way. I am building in. I think he is going to take a step forward in power, even though it isn't necessarily there in the numbers. 9% homer to fly ball rate the year before, 6 this past year. I get that, and the launch angles. I am hoping that he dials up and gets into a bit more loft. That's what was so disappointing about the 244 average, though, was that it's not like you were selling out for any power. You had a 49% ground ball rate, 22% line drive rate. I would have thought that would have been more conducive to getting some base hits, but they just weren't there for him with Ke'Bryan Hayes, and that was kind of a bummer. But I do think he's going to take a step forward, age 26 season, hopefully fully healthy. And that's why I put him down for 15 homers, which I do think is a little bit ambitious, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably too ambitious. You're talking about a guy who doesn't pull the ball at all. It's a really bad ballpark.
Hasn't pulled the ball at all. Hasn't.
I mean,
doesn't mean he won't.
His highest pull rate was last year at 27%.
I'm fully aware. I'm projecting a change, an improvement, a better player.
What is giving you?
Why does everything have to be in the numbers?
Well, but it doesn't have to be in the numbers. What in his approach is telling you he's going to try to pull the ball? Like this is wish casting.
It's not just wish casting.
It is wish casting, because he's shown nothing. Like
he got a 50 grade raw power as a prospect, right? I'm expecting him to play into it, and he's got 45 game power or 40. He's probably played more like 40. The last report that we had on him. Hang on one second. The last report, I'm expecting the approach to be better, for him to be coached into being a better hitter. Like I understand that, like, it's not there in the numbers, but I just think that he's going to start playing closer to the power that he has. Like, learn to be a better player. Like, learn from your dad. Dad, how do you hit homers? I don't know, dude. Maybe pull a ball every once in a while. Look, I can't explain it. Maybe that makes the projection shitty and people are laughing at me. And you know what? That's okay if they are. But we see this shit all the time where guys jump well beyond anything that's found in the numbers. And like, where did it come from? Well, it was in their pedigree as a premium prospect, as a quality player. The 50 raw. Now, if he only had 45 or 40 raw, I wouldn't be projecting that. But 50 raw tells me that he can be a 15 home run hitter. That is not that special.
If he could be a 15 home run hitter if he was trying to hit home runs, I don't think that's what he wants to do.
I disagree because he sure shit does not want to hit 244 with 7 homers again. You got to do something.
I think he wants to spray it. I think that's, I mean, you look at even like, what do you think his second half pull rate was?
I don't know, 6. He had 6 pulled balls. I don't know. I don't care.
20 and a half.
I don't even have frame of reference for that. Oh, actually, I know it's usually like closer to like 40%, right? For good pull hitters.
Yeah. I mean, so he was, 27 overall for the year. So he actually started pulling less as the season went on.
That's fine. The latter half, you know how much we overrate the second half compared to the first half.
I'm gonna lower his home run projection.
Wildly, do it. Lower him to 10 and be lower on Brian Hayes. I can't wait for this breakout.
I'm gonna lower him to 11.
You could have said the same thing about my interest in his steals last year. Well, why? He only had 9 this year. Because he has the speed to do it. I think he has the power to get there. It doesn't have 15 home runs is not that special. You don't have to have special power. It doesn't take, this is not a fundamental rebuild. Hang on one second. It's not a fundamental rebuild of who he is, right? To get there for Brian Hayes. This is all Brian Hayes talk here. Sorry, we've done a few pronouns there. This is Brian Hayes. He does not need to fundamentally rebuild who he is as a hitter. He does need to make some changes. I do grant you that. I'm not saying that as is, he's going to get there. I fully agree. But I don't believe he's a 4% barrel rate. I don't believe he's a 5% from 2021. I do believe that. What if he gets to 33% pull rate? That's not even that crazy. And you get a few Oppo tacos, I don't think it's that hard to get there is, I guess, my main point. Get a fully healthy season, which we haven't seen yet, 96 and 136 games. I've got him for a fully healthy season. You got him for 600 plate appearances, so that's projecting a measure of health.
Yeah.
So don't you think in a fully healthy season that he can finally start to get into some power? Wouldn't that all be kind of in there?
It is definitely in the range of possibilities. But I think it's also kind of banking on something that we have not even seen him come close to. Now,
go grill Dave. Go grill Dave. Derek Carty on this. He's got him for 11, which isn't too far off your projection. Steamer.
It's exactly my projection now.
Go grill Steamer. They got him for 13. I'm not that wild here with a 15 mark on Cabrizi. I will say
you're wild.
I'm sticking with it though. 15 and 23. Give me some Brian Hayes.
I dropped it a little bit. So power wise, I still think he's going to steal 20 plus bases as long as he's healthy.
What'd you have his batting average at? I forgot.
I have his batting average at 253. I definitely think that could come up. Like that for sure could.
I think one of them's got to come up, but I really think they come up in concert. So 269, 15 homers, Brian Hayes breakout. I'm jumping down quite a bit here just because it's a Pirate. And you mentioned that you like the team a bit and that things are going to be better with that lineup than maybe people think to help the runs and ribbies for some of those guys. But no love for Rodolfo Castro. You've got him just tanked off the board pretty much. And I'm a little bit curious about that because I thought that he showed some interesting things in his half season. And you've only got him going 214, 278, 393. Again, this is a way down the board DC kind of play, but no love for Rodolfo Castro.
No, I don't think he's like very.
He's got 60 raw. I got maybe I'm getting a little too into OOTP where I've watched him blossom into a guy who can pop 20, 25 plus homers. And, switch hitter, 24 years old. I think he's going to play too. I don't understand the projection for 99 games that the projection systems have on our site.
Pretty much what I have.
I was going to say, and I imagine that you've kind of matched that at 113 games. I'm not understanding that. G1 Bay is really going to play over him.
Go look at what people played last year in Pittsburgh. They platoon a lot.
They don't need to platoon a switch hitter though.
And they just mix and match a lot. Like
that's fair.
I just
feel like the switch hitter can avoid that.
I think he could, but I wasn't ready to project that. So I mean, it's definitely a more conservative projection.
So I hear you, but I have to disagree with you though, because from the time he came up on August 9th, he played all but 2 games. Rodolfo Castro was not being platooned. And by the way, I'm not advocating for you to like give him some grand projection. Let me give mine just so people don't think I'm like
maybe I should move him up to 520, 530 plate appearances. The problem is
you are right on the platooning, but I thought that the switch hitter can avoid it with Castro, and that's why I gave him a full season.
I think my biggest issue with him is that he's not good at making contact. He's really, really bad at making contact.
That is definitely scary. I've only got him for a 240 average and a 295 OBP, with both of which are unappealing. But I think there is some real punch there. I don't know why I'm in on Pirates power hitters here, because I got him for 24 homers.
Well, this is the only Pirates power hitter that you have that you're in on, because Brian Hayes is not a power hitter.
Yes, he is. No, I know he's not. I'm kidding on that part, but I do believe 15 homers. There is no problem with that. All right, let's get back on to closer to the ADP here. Is Gunnar Henderson the Vaughn Grissom of third base? And again, if you didn't listen to second base, what I mean by that is wildly overrated by the market, because according to our projections, that is a resounding yes. We both are much lower.
Now, this is, I think, for different reasons, but the ADP is getting really excited on Henderson. I think they will continue to get really excited, and I think he could have like a Bobby Witt Jr. or a Julio Rodriguez rise in draft season.
If he goes in the 4th round,
I think he's going to.
What am I missing on him? Maybe I'm wrong. Hey, Orioles fans, hit me up at Sporer on Twitter, because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, man.
I really worry about the platoon splits. He was really, really bad against left-handed pitching. Now, obviously, super small sample in the majors, but he struggled against it in the minors.
I was going to say, it is part of his minor league history.
Yeah, and so that becomes a real issue. Is I don't think they're going to platoon him. I think they're going to give him every opportunity. And this becomes a Josh Naylor situation, where Josh Naylor is really, really good against righties, really, really bad against lefties. Well, the Guardians have gone, we're going to take away we think that the Guardians are going to do.
They said
they're going to take away. Yeah, we're going to take away those lefty plate appearances. I don't think the Orioles will, which will drag down Henderson's numbers.
Yes.
And so like I have a really hard time projecting him for, coming close to that batting average last year, when I have a very strong suspicion that he is really going to struggle against lefties. And that's a real problem for me. I also don't see the huge stolen base numbers that I think other people are going to try to project. I know he can steal bases, and he did in the minors, but he's not like an overly fast guy. And we're talking about a guy who was up for 132 plate appearances and went 1 for 1 on the base paths. We're not talking about a guy who like was taking off when
after going 22 for 25. So they red lit him. They totally took Gunnar Henderson's wheels away. And he's 16 for 18 in 2021. So like you said, he has run in the minors at a pretty solid clip, and those are in 463 and 503 plate appearances respectively. But then, like you said, 1 for 2 when he comes up to the majors. If that's just not part of their game, where they're really pushing him on the bases, I'm not sure where it's coming from. The projection systems tend to agree, putting him at 8, 9, 10-ish, depending on which one you're looking at there. But Steamer is definitely playing into the inflation of Gunnar Henderson. They got him for 21 homers. The Bat X have him for 16 and 15 respectively. We've got his batting average down. I actually gave him more homers than that. I've got him for 18. You got him for 17. The homers I'm fine with. It's the steals and the batting average that have me really concerned about Gunnar Henderson. So I am nervous. He's 8th in ADP, and we have him 15th for you, 12th for me in our rankings there. So I do think there's a little Vaughn Grissom here where he's just being overrated by the market, and I would be careful. And could part of it just be also we've beat the hell out of the drum that third base is tough, and people are just seeing him as like, let me get this breakout guy who's power speed.
He's lasted quite a while in our draft. Like we're in the we just started the 9th round.
Well, he went in the 8th.
Yeah, he went in the 8th round. And like at no point was I like, oh, I'm getting Gunnar Henderson here.
Nope. I mean, I took Bregman. So yeah, I had no interest in that. Oh, I didn't put Bregman on the sheet, but I am curious how you feel about Bregman's second half as it relates, since you love second half so much. And the reason I pointed out specifically is not so much that the nearer term is 100% what he's going to be, but because he said himself that he finally felt back to 100%, being himself, hit 12 homers in 67 games compared to 11 in 88 games in the first half, 287, 379, 515 for Bregman down the stretch when he was fully healthy again. Are we going to get stud Bregman back? I'm not talking 41 homer rabbit ball guy, but what about upper 20s homer, maybe even 30 like he had in 2018?
I have him for 25.
Okay.
The problem is he wasn't like stud Bregman in the second half. He was stud Bregman in August. He was bad in September.
What did you hit in September? You're throwing so many stones. He had a 218 BABIP, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I kind of give him, I feel
like a little bit, yeah, sure. But
I feel like it's some bad luck. But yeah, he was awesome in August. It did come crashing down a bit in September because the hits just weren't falling. But I could relook at it again. I don't want to speak out of turn because I haven't looked at it in a while. I think the metrics were still there, though. I still think he was hitting the ball well. And I do think Bregman fell on some bad luck in that September.
And he fell on some good luck in that August. He had a 338 BABIP in August. So, I mean, the hard part about Bregman is how long can he be healthy for? He got injured in the playoffs, in the World Series. Now it's just a broken finger. Like it's going to be fine. So
kind of a fluke accident, yeah.
And
but he hit he's homer in every series.
He's just a guy who gets hurt all the time, and I want to believe that he's past that. But I think this is one of those situations where I'm probably going to need to see him put together a full season.
But it doesn't cost him games, right? At 91 games in 2021, that's really it. Otherwise, 4 155 plus seasons.
Only 42 games in 2020.
I don't give a shit about that. You know that. I know you said that to tweak me. I really like Bregman. I'm very much in on him. He kind of is my guy at third if I don't get the studs.
And to be honest, in this draft,
I took him in this draft. This is not my first draft getting Bregman, and it won't be my last. And even if I do get a stud, if I somehow luck into a 1 pick and I get Ramirez, I'm not out on Bregman still. I really believe that he can have another big season. Again, not 41. I'm nowhere near the 41 homers, but I do believe he can be upper 20s again with a chance at popping 30. He plays that stadium very well. He knows how to pull and leverage those Crawford boxes. He and Altuve tied for fourth. I mentioned this in the first base episode, tied for fourth in most pulled homers since 2020. And I didn't use 2019 because I didn't want it to overly inflate the sample. I got him for 26. So nothing too crazy. I also baked in some time off.
How many plate appearances do you have? Because I have him for 25. Yeah, I have him for 25, but I have him for 625 plate appearances. So
only 10 off.
We're 10 plate appearances and 1 homer off each other. So I think we're probably right in line.
Yeah, we're not too far up there. So we're not arguing on him. In fact, our dollars are cents apart, 19 cents apart. In fact, you have him higher, but we think that's a replacement level thing right now. So we're not. I need to get to the bottom of that when I finish the rest of my projections. Let's continue on. No confidence in an Anthony Rendon bounce back for you. You hate this man. You've got him for a whole ass buck. Let me get your projection up here real quick on Rendon. And listen, I can't really blame you with what he's done health-wise. 110 games is the big issue here because, 259, 358, 451, that's not horrendous. You don't think he's garbage when he plays, but 110 games, 15 homers, 53 runs, 63 ribbies for Rendon. Obviously, you're going to make him show you. I've only got him for 125 games, so I don't want to pretend that I'm like way off, way above here. But our 259 to 271 batting average difference is pretty stark. I still like him to be pretty good Rendon when he plays, even though I am baking in a decent bit of missed time as well. Talk to me about your Rendon feelings right now, and if he's somebody you'll ever find yourself heading back to this year in drafts.
It seems super, super unlikely that he ends up on any of my teams this year, unless it's like a 10-team league and I'm like just taking a gamble right at the end of a draft type of thing, which I plan on playing in some.
Yes, you are expanding your formats this year. Last year you cut the 12s because how much of a pain in the ass they are with the fab between the other leagues. This year you said, you know what, I will embrace that volatility. I'm going to play all sorts of formats.
Yeah, and I think we're going to build those leagues through the Patreon, the Discord channel. So
that sounds great.
Once I'm done with my projections here in the next week, I'll probably start transitioning towards that. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna be, and I think that becomes the hard problem. Is there are certain players where, and you and I've been talking a lot about our projections as we do them. There's certain guys where it's like, okay, it's pretty easy for me to pencil in 600 plate appearances and this amount of home runs, and like there's some pretty standard guys. And then there are guys where like, well, I'm definitely higher on the market on a guy than the market, or lower on a guy in the market. And then there are guys where I have no fucking clue. Like if Anthony Rendon played 35 games this year, I wouldn't be shocked. If he played
hard to be surprised,
140 games, I wouldn't be shocked. And I have no idea within those games played and those plate appearances what he's going to be, because he's missed so much time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could he be peak or close to peak Anthony Rendon? Yeah, I'm sure he could be. Could he just be a shell of his former self, even in full-time playing time? Yeah. And that volatility means I won't draft him.
Okay. I don't think that's completely unfair. I really don't. This guy I've had a soft spot forever. He played back to his time at Rice.
Very few people bigger fans of early career Anthony Rendon than me. But and even like the year he fell apart in Los Angeles, like I had a lot of Anthony Rendon that year. I just don't know. Like I have no clue. Like, I mean, and I don't think anybody does. Like,
no, it's tough. You got to go with what you got and just put down a number. 131 games by Steamer. Actually, that's our depth charts that they get the playing time from. So we put him down for $131. I've got Anthony Rendon for 125. So I'm not even going too crazy on him myself. You had him, I said, I think for 110. So we're all baking in a lot of time. I think that you have him a little bit lesser when he is playing, which I get, because if he's missing 50 games, then he might be injured during some of the ones that he is playing. And then that's why you're also bringing down the numbers a bit more. So we are a little split
about at a position where like there is no replacement value. Like
that's the scary part, is you lose Rendon.
If he's your third baseman, like hopefully he's your CI.
Yes.
If he, or util, or
he's gotta be. If you took Anthony Rendon as your starting third baseman, the rest of your team better be so immaculate.
Yeah, I don't want him on my team.
That's fair. That's fair. I can't really hate on you too much for that.
You know who I do want on my team though?
Who's that?
I'm on the clock. Nathaniel Lowe.
Son of a bitch. I was hoping I could talk you out of that. I was above board though. I said, listen, I don't want you to take him. I'm going to take him if you don't. But
it's gonna fuck my roster construction.
It's your second first baseman. You're one of two guys to kind of drain that pool of the upper tier. James, is it Gable? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, I think
James Gable went Abreu past Quintino. You went Goldie Low. So screw both of you. You guys are a couple of huge jerks, and I hate you guys. So there's that. Dang it. Yeah, I really was hoping that you'd go outfielder, which is probably what you should have done for your team construction, but I cannot blame you for simply just taking the best player on the board and figuring it out when it comes to the outfield.
Can I play Low in the outfield?
You can
make an executive decision and just
I don't know that they're going to let you do that. However, that was actually a decent little tangent, because we're going to talk about his teammate now, Josh Jung, Jung, for those that are looking for Young. Like, who are they talking about? So
like Carl Jung,
yeah,
like the great grandson of Carl Jung.
Exactly. So it's not Josh Jung, it's Josh Jung. Do we see the Josh Jung breakout this year? He got 102 plate appearances last year, which the triple slash was unimpressive, 204, 235, 418, but he did pop 5 homers and steal 2 bases. So it was a little blip, and it was an all or nothing kind of blip for Josh Jung. Obviously, we're not putting too much weight into that. Do we see the breakout from him? Because he returned from the injury as well. He just came up, got a few things going. And is this the year that we see things go crazy for him at age 25, Josh Jung?
I don't know about going crazy for him, but I think he's going to be a lot better than other projection systems are saying.
I agree. We're both pretty high on him relative to the market too. He's the 17th guy off the board at third base. You have him 14th. He's my 10th guy. So I do think the breakout.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So you're even higher than me. So I think that they are reading way too much into 2022 We have to remember that he had that really bad shoulder injury, I think in spring training, that cost him almost the entire year. They didn't even think he was going to play in 2023 at all. He not only played, but he got 100 plate appearances in both the minors and the majors, and was pretty good in AAA. And there were some bright spots in the majors. Now, he definitely was not himself yet.
No. Do you want to tell them what the strikeout rate was?
Yeah, the strikeout rate was 38%.
I don't think that's who he is, Josh Jung. Like, I think we can confidently say that's not him.
He made league average zone contact.
Yeah.
And he wasn't egregiously swinging outside the zone either. Swinging strike rate was 13%, which should have given him like a 25% strikeout rate. I think he was a little bit passive at times.
Mm-hmm.
He had an almost 20% called strike rate. I think, this is a guy that has shown double-digit walk rates in the minors. He has shown, pretty much, 20% strikeout rates in the minors. He's got probably a 60 grade hit tool, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
And he's got 60 grade power as well. So, yeah, I think he's going to play every day, as long as he's healthy. And I think he's going to hit for a fair amount of power. And I don't think it's going to be with a batting average that hurts you. I think, 250, 260 is in the ballpark. And I think there is a scenario in which he hits 30 plus homers. Now, I don't have him projected for 30 plus homers. I have him projected for 24.
You don't want to be
conservative.
You don't put the pure breakout as the projection like that. You don't give him their 90th percentile breakout there. But I like Josh Jung a good bit. I've got him. You got him for 24 homers, like you said. I got him for 23. So you actually have him for more homers. I think we have a big batting average split. You got 256. I got 272. So that's where I'm liking him to jump up. And the counting categories. We are 12 RBIs apart with my 82 to your 70. And we are 10 runs apart with my 74 to your 64. So that does end up being a decent gap between us. But we're still both ahead of the market. So do you see yourself getting some Josh Jung shares this year?
I hope so. I really do. I don't know that I've gotten him yet in a draft, but he's definitely going to be a target of mine, at the draft table, especially because I think there are going to be a lot of drafts for me in which I don't get a third baseman early. And he will be, him and Justin Turner we're going to talk about Jordan Walker, I assume, here shortly. These are going to be some of the guys that I look to pick up.
Absolutely. Now, I remember on the first base one, we at least mentioned Jose Miranda because I asked if his third base eligibility was boosting him. Did we go into details? I can't remember due to my old age if we discussed him at any great length or not. Do you remember?
I believe we did.
Okay, so then if you want to hear more about Jose Miranda, check out the first base episode. And if we didn't, then we'll talk about him.
I'm sure we'll talk. I mean, I think people
you really like him.
I mean, I like him, but I don't like him, I think, as much as the market does.
The market loves some Jose Miranda.
Yeah, I think the market is projecting some growth in the power that I just don't know that I buy.
Yeah. You're actually tied with the market, though, at third base. 11. Both of y'all got 11. I got him 18th, and I don't even hate him. How many homers you got for Miranda?
21.
Okay, we're dead even there. So you think the market might have him? Are they thinking that he could jump up in power like upper 20s or
That's
more?
What I'm guessing. Maybe not. Maybe the market's right with me. If I'm not that far above ADP.
I am 7 spots different than you. Then what do you got? Runs and ribbies?
I have runs. I have 69 runs and 77 RBIs.
Okay, we're almost deadlocked. Average, this might be it.
273.
269. Why are we so? It must be the replacement level stuff again then, and just guys I have higher because I'm not out on Miranda at all. But
I'm not either. I like Miranda.
At 18th, that's a little bit tough.
The only issue I think with Miranda is I don't think Miranda has a huge upside. I think Miranda has a very safe floor. I think he's going to hit for average. I think he's going to have high teens, low 20s homers. that is a pretty, like, it's not a great lineup, but it's a pretty good deep lineup. And so, like, I think he can score runs and RBIs no matter where he bats in that lineup. So I mean, I like Miranda. I'm actually surprised I'm right there at ADP.
Me too. I think it was different. Maybe it was different at first base. Actually,
At first,
I can just check.
At first base, I'm pretty sure I'm like
at first base. Oh yeah, the market has him as the 13th first baseman. He's your 16th and my 22nd.
Yeah, okay.
But it seems like our projections aren't too far off though. So again, it might just be kind of how everyone else shakes out and where it puts him. Even at just a 222, is Eugenio Suarez's batting average projection too high?
Potentially.
I believe so. You know, we talked about when that trade happened, right? All the focus was on Winker and how much it damaged him, and everyone that was on that was correct, you know. So if you didn't draft him last year because of that, and he also, you know, he had some injury issues too, but I really think even if he had stayed healthy, that park was just going to ravage Jesse Winker. But the forgotten part of that deal was Suarez until he started raking again. And he popped 31 homers, which is the same number that he'd hit in Cincy. 87 ribbies, up 8 from what he did in Cincy the year before. But his batting average surged up to 236, which was really nice, despite hitting, because he had 198 the year before in Cincy. BABIP went from 224 to 302. A 302 BABIP on its face isn't crazy. I think for present day Suarez, though, that's kind of the high end, and I'm bringing that sucker down a bit. And so even the 222 projection, I think it's a little bit too high that you have on Suarez here. And that happens to be kind of our split on him because I got him for a 213 batting average for Eugenio Suarez. What say you to that?
You might be right. I mean, I obviously could see him, you know, I think a lot of it depends on the BABIP. You know,
9 points, by the way, is a handful of hits. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like you love him and I hate his guts, but I'm putting 213 knowing that sub 200 is very much in the cards again for Suarez. My main point is I worry that people are going to get a bit drunk on last year and feel like he's back. And I don't think he's back. Eugenio Suarez.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I mean, he had the worst zone contact of his career, and it wasn't even particularly close. You know, his previous worst zone contact was 82.7%, and last year was 79.8%. And he's a career like 85% zone contact guy. So I mean, he's well below league average and his career, which is right around league average. So I think you have to prepare for him to probably hit lower than 222. And there's a reasonable expectation that he could hit below 200, given what we see at the plate. Now, I have a really hard time projecting that. And maybe I do need to lower my projection a little bit, maybe drop him to like 215 or something.
And that's only, again, that's shaving off like a hit or two. So I get that. It's not a huge thing.
He just hits the ball so damn hard.
He does. He smashes the ball when he makes contact. I just worry that if he gives anything else back in contact, like you said, it's already troublesome, that if any ounce that he gives back can really be exponential to the batting average there for Eugenio Suarez. And I do really feel that the sub 200 is very much in play with him. So here's the thing. If you do draft him, you hope to get lucky and maybe get another 230 or 220. You better prepare your batting average around him. You absolutely better be stocked to take on a real troublesome batting average.
Pair him with Stephen Kwan and be happy.
There you go. That's not a bad idea there. Will the Green Monster not eat up some homers for Justin Turner? You've got him with 17, which is not crazy, but LA is a much better park for righty homers than Fenway because of the Green Monster. I've got him for 12. I wonder if maybe you're on the very high end there, his like 100th percentile. And I wonder if maybe you're a little bit too high.
Au contraire, mon frère.
Let's hear it.
Yes,
I do. That's French. That's French, folks.
French was actually my first language for those wondering.
Oh, wow.
I don't speak it anymore, but that's a story
sure you
for
do.
a different
you
time.
Swear all the time.
Yeah, this is true. he actually would have had more home runs in Boston than he would have playing all of his
Yeah,
games.
that was last year's batted ball distribution. That doesn't
Actually,
that doesn't
and
move
actually,
the needle
I'm
for
actually wrong.
Oh,
I'm misremembering that.
so on contraire, mon frere.
Yeah, contraire en frere. Yeah, I may be a little bit high.
I'll tell you, and
power.
all I would suggest is to maybe shave back 3, 4, 5 of them, because we're 5 apart. You don't have to go all the way down to where I'm at, but I would maybe funnel it back into his batting average because I've actually got him for a 297. I think Justin Turner can really bounce back up in batting average at the cost of the pop, but end up still being a very similar player there. So we're not too far off overall on how we feel about him. As far as the projections, it's just the distribution of the stats where you've got a few more homers, I've got more base hits. So I think he's going to beat up the wall a bit, lose a few homers, but I think the batting average could be really nice for him. Maybe you go Suarez, maybe you go Turner to cover your Suarez shares there, because I do think he could surge back up in batting average. That's kind of my thing with Justin Turner going to Fenway this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it all comes down to like how much does he play? Like
297 is a little high, by the way. He only hit that recently in the nothing season 2020. He hit 312 in 2018, but we're a bit removed from that. I'm probably going to get it back closer to 290. But my bottom line is I think the power will come down and the batting average will go up for Justin Turner. So I still like him. I just think he's a different kind of fit for what you might want there with him going to the Green Monster.
I'm going to drop him. I'm going to keep the batting average same, but I am going to drop him to 16 home runs. But I'm not going to drop him a ton because I think that maybe he gets a little bit of power back just based on being healthy and not having to play the
he
field.
can go over the wall. Yeah, it's not automatically going to snuff him out there, but I just want to put a little food for thought out there with Justin Turner. Okay, we are completely split on Jordan Walker. You alluded to him earlier. Because of a conversation we had last night, I kind of have an idea of what you're going to say, but I want you to share it with the folks. You have him 18th. I have him 35th. ADP has him 23rd. I like Jordan Walker when he comes up, by the way. This is not, I gave him, I didn't give him like a 162 average with 2 homers, but I only gave him 92 games. And that's where we're split right now because I'm just not seeing the playing time. And interestingly, it's another player that determines a lot of our difference here. And for folks that have listened for a long time, will know that that's Dylan Carlson.
Yeah.
I'm just not out on him yet. And you're ready to kind of push him down quite a bit because that's where the playing time would come, is that you put O'Neill in the center and then that opens up left field for Walker because obviously third base.
You'd be putting Nootbaar in the center, but yeah,
Nootbaar over O'Neill. Is Nootbaar a true center fielder? Okay, either way, Nootbaar in the center. Then talk to me about Walker. I've got him for 92 games. How many do you have him for? And give me an idea of why you have him for the number that you do.
I have him for 125 games, and honestly, I think that may be playing it a bit conservative. I think Walker's up early, and I think there is a legitimate.
Who cares about what time he wakes up?
I do, because that means he's working hard on his game.
That was a stupid joke, and you made it better. Thank you for playing into it. Go ahead, continue.
You're welcome. I think first of all, let me just say this. If you are interested about Cardinals players, definitely go listen to the Friends Fantasy Benefits Cardinals preview that went up with Matt Thompson. Matt Thompson, he works Prospect Live. He's one of my co-owners at Friends of Fantasy Benefits. And nobody knows the Cardinals as good as Matt Thompson, especially from the minor league system. He's a big Cardinals guy, and he goes to a lot of the Cardinals minor league games. The Cardinals have a lot of players who are going to play in the WBC.
10.
Yeah, and which means Jordan Walker is going to play a lot in spring. And Jordan Walker is good. He is very good. I think he's major league ready right now. I think the question becomes, because he came up as a third baseman and now he's having to transition to the outfield because obviously he's not going to supplant Arenado defensively at third base. If he is ready defensively, he will be up. And if he's up, he's playing every day. And I think that he could easily force his way onto the opening day roster for a team like the Cardinals who want to win. And probably aren't going to care necessarily about holding his service time down, especially with the new incentives to bring, your young stars up in terms of getting draft picks and stuff. I think there's a legitimate chance I'm actually way low on his projection right now, and that he is what everybody is wish casting Gunnar Henderson into being, and he should be the 4th round pick.
Well, I'll say this. If he breaks camp the way J-Rod did, Jordan Walker will move up commensurate with that. I don't think you're light right now because it is still an open question. He needs to be locked in to that playing time before you can fully give it to him. But your 125 games is certainly not out of pocket. You've got him basically coming up about a month before me, so May instead of June. I got like Memorial Day.
I pretty much have him breaking camp as soon as like the service time game stuff. And I think a lot of it does come down to what you said. What do they do with Dylan Carlson? Carlson. And again, I recommend you go and listen to that podcast with Matt, because Matt was a huge Dylan Carlson guy when he was coming up from the minor leagues. And Matt's like, I'm done with Dylan Carlson.
And I haven't listened to it yet. I actually downloaded that this morning based on your recommendation. Not love. That's not the word I'm looking for. God, why can't I think of words? You're not giving him any credit for playing through injury and giving him a little leeway there for Carlson.
I'm not, and I can understand other people that will, but I never liked Dylan Carlson.
No, I know. I guess Matt specifically. The question would be better for him because if he liked him, and now he's quitting him, because that's where I'm at right now. Because I've loved him. We've always had the debate. You've never been in on him. That's totally fine, and that drives some of your Jordan Walker love. I just don't think they're going to give up on him. I don't think they're going to send him down. He is 24 though. It's not. It's not out of the realm. But here's the thing.
I think he needs to relearn how to hit.
Even with what we're considering a pretty rough season, he was a league average bat. Yeah. It's not like he put up some 62 WRC plus. His homer to fly ball rate halved down to 6. I think we attribute some of this to the injury. Again, I'm not trying to sell you because I know I'm not going to sell you on Dylan Carlson. I couldn't sell you when he was good. I'm not going to be able to sell you when he's coming off of a tough season. So I grant that. I fully understand that. But that's what gives me pause about Walker being up that quickly, and I have more of a Memorial Day arrival for him. And I'm going to stick with that until we see things change. Obviously, if things change, I'm going to make the commensurate change and boost him up to say 130 games. And then my numbers will of course rise for him. Here's the question then. How much are you drafting him? Because you're well above the market. Do you have Jordan Walker yet?
I do not have Jordan Walker yet, but I hadn't done his projection yet. So
there's a draft where you don't have a third baseman.
He may end up being my third baseman. So
what if I take him this round just to screw literally just to block you? I overdraft him by 120 picks.
Are you gonna double tap on Josh Jung and
yep, I'm draining that pool, baby.
Right now.
My third base, my corner, and my util. What's up? Yeah, right. I will not do that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start getting aggressive on him. In kind of the same way, for those who, I don't even know if I ever said this publicly. Matt is the person who told me in like January or February that Julio Rodriguez was making the opening day roster.
He was right.
And he was right. Matt is, Matt is like one of the most underrated people in the industry. And I know he focuses a lot of his work now on just straight up prospect stuff over Prospect Live, but I trust Matt a ton, especially when it comes to prospects and Cardinals, especially Cardinals prospects. So
Matt's that dude. He is absolutely that dude. So I totally get that.
Yeah, he caught in college. Like he knows baseball, he knows the game. And so I do definitely defer a lot to him on prospect stuff. So I may get pretty aggressive, especially before there is news out and before spring training starts. Because once spring training starts and he goes on and hits 8 home runs, like the price is going to get.
Or even if he just hits 4 and they say he's breaking camp. Once that is clear, if it indeed happens, watch out. He is a J-Rod. He is a Bobby Witt. He's going to go through the roof there with his draft pick. So yeah, if you like Walker, you might want to get into some drafts now, secure some shares. It doesn't mean you don't get him later, but you're gonna have to pay the premium. So you might want to, and hey, I'm telling you right now, look in the camera. You love him. Don't fucking draft him all February and then not draft him in March, you idiot.
And I mean, here's the thing too. What are the two worst positions in fantasy this year?
Third base and outfield.
And
he'll
he's third
qualify at
base
both
right
of them.
now, and he's going
So
to
I don't
qualify
want
at
to
outfield
hear.
now.
Remember in January when I told you it was so good and I didn't get him in any league where I'm paying
I don't
extra,
think he
where I'm paying a high.
qualifies as the next Cedric Mullins because I think he's still going too
No,
high.
I'm not saying
But
that, but I'm just
he
saying you've had
could,
other guys
yeah,
that aren't
yeah, no, for
Cedric
sure.
that you loved, and then
Like
you
Craig
balked
Kimbrell,
when the
yeah.
price went up. And there's other people that do that too. So it's a phenomenon that is not unique to you. It's that we love our guys, and then once the price goes up, we're like, well, I've already got him. I don't want to pay this premium.
And
it's
this is why I really like doing the projections and then having the values run for me.
Yep.
Because it allows me to just kind of stay true to
trust what you
I
got.
believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not going just off your gut. You say you've got these numbers down. You believe in your own numbers. Go for it. Are you even drafting Yohan Moncada at this point? Hard shift to somebody who is not making anybody too excited right now. Are you even drafting Moncada in drafts at this point?
No, I mean, I think the market has finally cooled on him.
Yes,
but for too many years, people have continued to draft him based on his prospect pedigree, because he was supposed to be a Hall of Famer before he reached major leagues. And we're now at a point where I think he's got to prove that he can stay healthy and he can be productive when healthy. And he has done neither of those things recently.
Double hamstring injury last year, similar to India, where he had it and then it re-injured a couple months later. Oblique injury as well. 3 IL stints really limited him. I think the only thing that you could maybe get like a little tinge of Moncada excitement from is the fact that he only hit 2 fewer home runs than the year before, despite playing almost 200 plate appearances less. So, there was, but it wasn't actually an increased pop. The ISO was 148 to 141. So the pop went down. It was just that he was hitting a few more homers, and the doubles rate came way down. Walk rate went almost in half literally in half, from 14 to 7%. Strikeouts are still up there. They're not as crazy as they were that one year when he struck out like a million times on called third strikes or whatever, but he's still at 25, 26. So he's got a quarter strikeout rate and then only 7% walk. He doesn't run. He never really has, by the way. It was 12 and 10 were the first 2 years that Moncada did anything. And then since 2020, including those 52 games, he has 5 steals in 7 attempts. And I get it because he's been hurt. So he doesn't want to add potential injury via base running that isn't necessary, for his game. So here's the thing. And I don't say this to like couch it so that I can go back and say, I was in on this if he pops off. I wouldn't actually be surprised if he had a fully healthy season and went bananas. I wouldn't. I'm not drafting it though. I'm certainly not projecting it, and I don't expect it to happen. So he's like one of those guys I'd be like, oh, okay, I lost on him because I didn't draft him, but okay, he did bounce back. Good for Moncada. But I just don't see it, and I don't really see a reason to draft his bland 15 homers and 240 average,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he is I expect him to be better than he was last year, but that's just not saying much.
How could he not? Yeah. It's like if you're not, then you might be getting sent to the minors. He had 212 last year.
I think the hard part too is he's not running anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Like he doesn't run.
And I think that in order for him to find a path to fantasy value, because I don't think he is ever going to tap into prodigious power, he has to do both. And I don't know that he even wants to run, and I definitely don't think the White Sox want him to run, especially after double hamstring injuries.
Yeah, maybe if he came back 100%, he's just the healthiest he's been, since like 2018 or something. That's the only way I can see it, but I would never project it. I think I gave him.
He's definitely a guy to watch though in spring. Like if he's looking healthy, if the strikeout to walk rate is really, really good.
Especially if he gets the walks back. The 7% from Moncada particularly scared me. Having your walk rate is rough. So that I agree. Watch him in spring, and then maybe you can get a little interested and take him as a late flyer. But as it stands right now, in these winter drafts,
think the power in his bat is completely gone. I just don't know that he's ever been able to tap into it completely, or he hasn't been able to tap into it completely recently because of the injuries.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I mean, and this is really just it's narrative building, and I hate doing this. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that really cares about baseball that much. Like he
might not. That
like,
I don't know, but
like,
it's tough with Moncada, right? Because you want to like him. He seems like somebody that could be a really fun superstar.
He's built like a guy that should be a monster.
Exactly. And this is a stupid reason that has nothing to bear with anything, but he has a cool name too. Like he just seems like it'd be fun if Yohan Moncada now, you hear? Go listen to In This League podcast for more hilarious things like that, including Alberto Mondesi.
Oh, happy 40th birthday to Bogman yesterday.
Had a baby Bogman hitting the big 4-0. So yeah, Moncada, I'm not drafting him in any winter drafts. The only way I would maybe get a little bit of interest is exactly what you said. If spring changes and we do get like a best shape of his life, something or other, and he actually does something too. I don't want to just read a report about it and then he goes out and has a bland spring. If he comes back, he's walking, his strikeout rate is at like 23 to 25%. He pops a few dingers, maybe even steals a couple bases. Then I could see taking one flyer share. But other than that, no shot. All right, let's have the Brett Baty, Eduardo Escobar discussion here, because the Correa news of him leaving the Mets had to be good for Brett Baty. If I'm not mistaken, you're a Baty fan. I'm a Baty fan. I'm having a hard time getting there with the playing time projection, though.
Yeah,
I think they're going to stay pretty committed to Escobar unless he gets even worse than he was last year. And he was pretty bad. 240, 295, 430. The power was still there, 190 ISO, but a 295 OBP, once you hit below 300, that's a really, really rough marker. But 20 homers, 69 runs, batted in, 58 scored for a 34-year-old Escobar. Now, the bat doesn't like him. He gave him 317 plate appearances. Now, we talked about the playing time thing. He said that comes off of our...
It's off of depth charts.
But it can't be because our depth charts has him for 115. So that's the interesting thing here. There had to have been some mistake because also Baty actually didn't make it in to the bat's first run. So I wouldn't take anything from Escobar's projection.
I wonder if it's off like a
bat.
previous, like it's off as of previous
pre-Correa.
Like, yeah.
Well, he still would have had a projection though. So something happened where his numbers didn't get in to the first run. He said it would come back out when ATC runs because that's where he gets his playing time from for the official. So anyway, I want to know more about what you think though. Do you still want to take Baty now that Correa is not going to be there? How fearful are you of Escobar? You do have him for 451 plate appearances. You have Baty for 263. So clearly you're not getting the warm and fuzzies about Baty. Are you still going to take any flyers on him in draft champions or anything though?
Yeah, in draft champions I will, because I don't think Escobar's good. And I think that part really hurts him. Because he's one of those guys that has kind of fence scraping power, and that is not a great place to hit. I do think Baty has real power, but I think they're going to give Escobar and that contract every opportunity to play, at least out the gate. Not to mention Baty's coming off of thumb surgery. We don't know how, how he's doing. This could be something that completely turns around in spring training. And so I'll take a couple like late shots on Baty right now with the hopes that maybe Baty comes into spring training and is crushing the ball, and it's clear that he is the guy that should be their everyday third baseman. The beauty of the Mets is I think they do not care about contracts in general at this point.
Wait. You just said that they're going to care about Escobar's contract.
No, I think they want to give him the first shot.
Oh, okay. But if not, then they will.
I think they want to win a World Series. Like they look what they did with Robinson Cano and just eating that deal.
Yep.
But what did they do? They also gave Robinson Cano the first opportunity because of the contract. So
okay, so that's what you're saying. Okay, I thought you were saying opposite things there. And by the way, both guys are post 400 picks. So if for some reason you are an Escobar guy, you can get him. But if you are a Baty guy, you can get him at pick 450, 460. 475 is actually his ADP, so you can go even later if you want, and take your shot there and just hope that things break for him. I agree with you on the health piece, that if Baty comes into camp healthy, looking sharp, all of a sudden that could really change the dynamic there. But as it stands right now, I couldn't really get him for much of a projection as far as playing time, and thus he ended up pretty low on my list.
Yeah, mine as well. And I mean, I'm a big Baty fan. I've got him 49th right now. He could easily jump up and all of a sudden like go from 49th to like right around Josh Jung. Like, I mean, he could be above Josh Jung if we think he's the everyday third baseman. I mean, I think they
would need to get rid of Escobar for me to do that.
Yeah, but I could see them doing that.
Yeah. Like if they trade, if Beatty comes in the spring, he's super healthy, he's raking. 2 weeks in, Mets have traded Eduardo Escobar to, I don't know, fucking Marlins would probably get him or some shit, something like that. And is Beatty's job free and clear? Yeah, I'll move him up a healthy ass bit. But as it stands right now, I'm laying low. I think I'm going to snag one Beatty in a DC, whether it's this one or another. I mean, we'll race to see who can get him. But other than that, I got to see more. So he's a wait and see situation. Meanwhile, I don't think you really want to jump in on Escobar, even though he is cheap. So if you just want a veteran late.
I think the hard part is I don't know that they would trade Escobar. Like, because he could play second and third, like he could just become their utility guy. So that may confuse things no matter what. Even if it looks like Beatty might take that job. But I'm definitely watching Beatty in spring. I'm definitely listening, checking like Justin Ramirez mining the news and, any news that comes out of New York in terms of Brett Beatty is going to potentially influence my draft spot of him.
$9.5 million for Eduardo. That can be a put. That can be
on the
utility guy.
$30 million a year could be.
Well, exactly. Yeah, they have a $32 million utility guy, but yeah, 9.5. There's no reason that they can't bench that if things aren't breaking the way they want for him. Brian Anderson is somebody who was non-tendered. I liked him maybe for my Tigers. They've now since made some moves that's probably not going to happen with Nick Maitan coming in and Justin Henry Malloy, I believe also can play third if I'm not mistaken. So I think that they're set with what they want to do there. They're not going to be going for a Brian Anderson. Do you have any potential landing spots for him? I know I'm putting you on the spot with that, but do you have anywhere you think he might wind up?
I'm kind of looking.
He could be a utility too, because he can kind of play the corners, actually all four corners, first, third, left, right, and a little second base. So he could be a util for somebody.
I mean, what's a team that needs a mediocre player that can play a couple different positions? Like that feels like a Milwaukee Brewer to me. Or maybe a Kansas City Royal.
I could see the Royal. He is a Royal as hell. I mean, you know why? Because the Marlins are the fucking National League Royals, with their huge ass park and shit. Honestly, I think your Brewers one has a little bit more merit because they've got tons of lefties. They got a lot of platoon options. Now Brasso actually is Brian Anderson though.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I got the spot.
Go ahead.
Josh Naylor's platoon partner in Cleveland.
That would be hot. That would actually be pretty hot. Because remember when we covered that, all they had was lefties, and we couldn't figure out who the platoon partner was going to be. Because Will Brennan, Will Benson are both lefties, and we weren't sure who it was going to be. It's not going to be Tyler Freeman. He's an infielder, even though he's a right-hander. So yeah, we couldn't figure out who it is. That would actually make some sense.
Yeah. I think
we might have nailed it.
Yeah, I think that could make sense.
Get it done, Cleveland.
He's going to find a spot. I just have a really hard time doing projections on guys that I don't know where they're going to play.
Absolutely.
So I kind of left, a placeholder projection in for him.
I did too. It's nothing right now. I wouldn't commit to it at all. I got to see where Brian Anderson lands. I still like him. I still feel like a healthy Brian Anderson is an above average guy, but we have not seen that guy for the last 2 years, 67 and 98 games. And thus he's ended up putting up a 93 WRC plus. So got to be healthy. Got to find a spot for Brian Anderson. Spencer Steer out in Cincinnati. Am I crazy for thinking he has some sneaky breakout potential?
Okay. So here is the thing. He does. But he also has a very familiar hole in his swing, which reminds me a lot of Nathaniel Lowe before he closed that hole in the upper part of the zone. He cannot get high velocity,
high heat
pitches.
Eats Steer alive.
And that's going to be a real problem at the majors.
Do they throw hard in the majors?
I believe they do.
I'll check on that. I'll check on that while you're talking.
Now, he's not in the worst of divisions for that problem. I mean, you're going to have problem against the Brewers because the Brewers have a lot of guys who can throw hard. But the Cardinals don't.
No,
and the
Cubs
Pirates don't, and the Cubs don't.
That's a good call.
So I had a really hard time with this projection because I don't like that hole in his swing. I definitely think he's going to go through extended periods of struggle, but I also know that it seems like they're going to give him every opportunity to play third. They already DFA'd Moustakas and let him go.
Yep. That encouraged me for Steer's
It's a fantastic park to hit in.
Also encouraged me, as you know, with my Will Myers projection.
And I think there's real potential for him to hit 6th or 7th in this lineup. And with the injury issues on this team, it could be even higher at times. You've got a team of Jonathan India was injured a lot last year. Joey Votto was injured pretty much all the year and is still injured, may not be ready for opening day. Tyler Stevenson has injury issues. Will Myers has had injury issues. He could find himself batting third at points in this lineup. So yeah, it was a very difficult projection to do. But I kind of like him as a cheaper option.
Me too. I like Spencer Steer. My concern though, not only with the high heat that you're talking about, or in concert with it, is specifically against righties. He had a massive platoon issue at the major league level, but even in the minors, where he did pretty well overall with an 834 OPS, it was 765 against righties, 998 against lefties. And we know, well, there's a couple lefties in Milwaukee, Miley and Lauer. There's Steele and Smiley in Chicago. There's Jordan Montgomery and Steven Matz. There's 2 each. And then Pittsburgh, they don't have any lefties.
They have Rich Hill.
Oh, Rich Hill. So there's 6. Or no, what is that? That's 7. There's 7 lefties. So, that he could be a really fun streamer for Spencer Steer, right? You see them coming up with some divisional stuff. You maybe get him in there. Obviously, a home stand. You get him in for that, of course. So, or if he locks up the hole against righties, then I think he could be a whole ass breakout. So I'm intrigued by Spencer Steer. Definitely going to get some deep league shares of him and keep an eye on him in spring to see if he can close up that hole a bit.
Yeah.
Dead cat bounce for Josh Donaldson, or is he cooked?
I don't want to say he's cooked, but yeah, he's cooked. He's gonna have moments where he is a productive player, but
he's still also got some punch.
Yeah, he's got some punch. I don't know. I projected him for 540 plate appearances. I don't know how I did that. So I probably need to lower that a little bit.
I would tamp it down a bit, yeah.
Because I just don't know how he gets to 540 plate appearances. That trade for him just looks worse and worse.
What was that deal?
That was the deal to get Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
Yeah, no, I was saying more of why the hell did they do it?
And now it doesn't even look like IKF is a starter necessarily in New York. That was a really, really bad deal.
Should have just kept Urshela. And listen, Sanchez didn't exactly pop off over there, but Urshela alone would have been worth just hanging on to. So yeah, I got nothing for Donaldson. I'm not.
I gave him 540 because he's hit 540 the last 2 years. So
you just figure they keep going, but they got guys that can be pushing him though, with Peraza and Cabrera coming up.
Are either of them a third baseman though?
I think Cabrera is, maybe not Peraza, but if Peraza plays short, then can't Glaber go over to third? Or does Glaber not have the arm for third? He might not have the arm for third.
I don't know that he's got the arm for third. I think he's probably the third baseman.
In fairness, Cabrera was my bigger concern. I mentioned Peraza
and Donaldson's still a good defensive player. So
that's yeah.
They may just say, we're gonna let you play there because you're gonna help the pitchers. 540 is probably right. It's 17 home runs, a crappy batting average. He still walks, so he gets a little bit of bump in OBP. But I mean, I don't think we're seeing peak Donaldson come back anytime soon.
No, and nothing close to it.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing here. Very deep league. So folks that aren't in deep leagues, podcast is essentially over for you. It actually has been for a while. We've been talking deep league guys for a minute here. Joey Wendle. I don't want to get too bogged down on this. It's a guy that not everyone's drafting. It's like an NL only play mostly. But you only gave him a 251 average, and he's a career 271 hitter. And I was just wondering why such a low batting average projection for Joey Wendle.
He punched my dog.
I knew it. I knew he did something like that. What a jerk. What an absolute jerk. No, you look at him since 20, hitting 267, and you're 251. So you're not like crazy. Again, when you start doing projections like this, you realize that that's a handful of hits. I totally grant that.
It is.
But I felt like there might actually be a little bit of upside there. And one of the interesting things, he spiked 12 steals last year. What if Joey Wendle adds some more SBs to the mix as well? I feel like he's going to play. They traded Miguel Rojas. I don't think John Birdie plays over him. I think he's at least the strong side platoon. So I'm not saying Wendle is some big mixed league stud, but I kind of like him in deeper formats. And I thought maybe you sold him a tad short on the batting average because he's had 293 OBP BABIP last year. I think he can get back up into the 300s. He's a 319 career guy. What do you think about Joey Wendle?
Yeah, I could probably get him a little bit higher. It's probably not going to be much higher, but maybe he deserves to be a 260 as opposed to 250.
That's 9 points.
Yeah, so
9-10 points.
I could definitely see that. I think the hard part is I only projected him for 376 plate appearances. One, I just don't know how much playing time. Like the Marlins have other guys they should be giving plate appearances to. Will they? And will Wendle stay healthy? I think that is a bigger question.
That is a perfectly legitimate question that I cannot answer affirmatively, and so I get it.
Yeah, and so I may move up his batting average projection a little bit. I think you're right. It's going to be very BABIP dependent because he has such a high ground ball rate, but the speed hasn't necessarily waned. So, maybe I am a little bit, low on kind of where I think the BABIP's going to fall.
Another like streamer type too, where you need a couple weeks to fill in, and maybe they got a string of righties coming up and things break well for them. You could snake a few steals. And I also wouldn't be terribly surprised. Yes, you mentioned the ground ball rate for Joey Wendle is exceedingly high, 55% last year, 49% for his career. But I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he kind of got that homer to fly ball rate back in check. It was at 4% last year after 11% from 20 to 21. Maybe not all the way back up to 11, but maybe a couple more homers too is what I'm saying here. Like 7-8 homers, maybe 15 steals though. Depending on how much he plays, 15 to 20 steals, and a decent batting average. So again, you're talking NL only. You're talking deep mixed league fill in here on Joey Wendle. I don't want people going out and drafting him in their 12 team or saying, yo, Sporer was all over Wendle. Now, I'm not saying that, but
this is NL only and really, really deep mixed. For those of you who are screaming like, hey, maybe he benefits from the shift, the less shift. He was actually much worse when they didn't.
When it was unshifted? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
He at around the same amount of plate appearances, 156 plate appearances. With no shift last year, 142 plate appearances with a shift. And he hit 345 against the shift and 252 with no shift.
Wow.
No, I mean, I'm sure there's other things probably in play in that, but that I don't think he's a guy who's necessarily going to benefit from the shift or there not being a shift.
Not necessarily going to be a big factor for Joey Wendle. Son of a bitch, Taylor Ward went after you. Once you took Nathaniel Lowe, I was like, well, at least I can get Ward.
He was the other guy I was thinking.
I know he was. And you know what? The guy that took him, Schroeder, didn't have a first baseman, so he was probably going to take Lowe too. So maybe I was getting neither of them.
You were probably getting neither, yeah.
Love Taylor Ward. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up at the Hot Trash Corner. For our first review of it. We'll follow back up in about a month or so, and hopefully some dust settles. Maybe some Brett Beatty situation comes to fruition. Maybe Anthony Rendon comes in best shape of his life, man, and you start projecting him for 35 homers. You said you would do that. I've committed you to that. that if he comes in the best shape of his life, Justin Mason says 35 homers for Anthony Rendon. Book it. Is that correct?
I don't believe that's correct.
I rewind the tape. I think you might have said that.
I'm gonna have to edit that part out.
Okay. Edit that part out. Shortstops on Friday.
Yep.
Until then, I will talk to you later.
Take it easy.